We're doing the Explain the Pain Marathon, as we like to call it, with our friends at the Tucson Crime Free Coalition. Our leadoff batter today is Monica Carlson. Monica, good morning.
Good morning.
What's the family business first?
We have the Carlson Company on Fort Lowell. It's plumbing, heating, and air conditioning.
Fort Lowell and what?
Fort Lowell and Park.
God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an interesting week.
So you're the classic Tucson small business.
Yes.
And how long you guys been there?
My husband and his brother have had it for 33 years, I think.
So why did Monica leave her comfort zone?
It started before summer hit, and we used to have our kids come down and clean up our parking lot when it was safe. And we started to notice, needles, human feces, tampons, anything, everything you can imagine. That was the start of it.
Right.
Where they couldn't touch stuff anymore. Then we started noticing all these pieces of foil. Found out that was from fentanyl. So we took our kids out of the business. Yesterday, we had a man walk by our front door, which is a glass door, and he was taking off his clothes. And the secretary ran and got my husband. He came out, told him to get off of the property. And the guy threw a jackhammer shaft, a block of metal, and a giant rock at my husband and was running around like a lunatic. We've called 911. We got transferred to TPD, and we're still waiting.
We have Steve Juhan. I've known Steve for quite a while. Steve, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chris.
Now, Steve, you have some industrial space, right, over on Grant and I-10 area, right?
West of I-10, between I-10 and Silverbell.
Okay. And then you do represent the group of the business owners over there, right?
I'm the president of the Grant Road Industrial Center Owners Association, and there's probably 80 businesses and 20 property owners. I describe them as like criminal contractors with tools. They're up in the middle. Yeah, they've got a way to get the product out, whether it's copper or air conditioning units, or they have ladders to get up on the roofs. They have tools to cut the fence.
Now, we were talking about the softball field that's just north of your, right behind there. How much copper did they steal out of there?
So when Rothschild was mayor, they took $268,000 worth of copper, and the lights were off for like a year or two. They put it back.
I'm only laughing because you don't want me to cry. Sue Fry, and she's with Southern Arizona Veterinary Specialists, right?
That's correct. Uh-huh.
Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you.
Tell me about Southern Arizona Veterinary Specialists first. How long were you at the basics?
The practice was opened back in 92, 93. We've been there on Fort Lowell since then. We've seen an increase and uptick in the drug use, drug paraphernalia. Our landscapers get chased with a guy that was acting like a ninja. He had nunchucks. He jumped up on the wall, was being all crazy. Called the police department. The police come out because he was threatening people with a weapon. And he disappeared when they showed up. But then as we were talking to them...
He was a ninja. Of course he disappeared.
He was a ninja. Yeah, he was in disguise. But then he showed back up and he yelled over across the wall and he said, yeah, I'm not the guy you're looking for. I changed my clothes. And then we all just stood there and looked at him and like, yeah, that's him. And so he became a ninja. And
oh, wow.
And then yelled a bunch of profanity. We had prostitution. One of our employees was walking one of the pets outside in our little our little fenced off run area. And right underneath the back stairs, she came back in. She was horrified. She was crying. And we went out there.
What was going on in the nicest way possible?
The man was very happy.
Gotcha.
And so was the lady. And, there was an exchange of some stuff.
Wow. So we're talking sexual relations underneath your staircase.
Yes.
Yikes.
With drugs. Not to mention, the vandalism. We had beautiful etched windows next to our front door that had like a saguaro and agave.
Not anymore.
No, they were kicked in.
So damages plus new security, what are we into this?
Approaching $100,000. Oh,
Gotcha.
That number's hard to say out loud.
I know. And from Edmund's Automotive, we went right to the top. We brought Edmund in. Edmund, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Good.
And who's this young lady sitting to the left?
That's my wife, Maria.
Good morning, Maria.
Good morning.
How long has Edmunds Automotive been around?
We've been there 18 years.
And hold on, I want to get my screen button ready. What intersection are you on?
Oracle and Prince.
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Yes, I've been in this building 18 years that I've owned it, and I worked there for 12 before I bought the place, and this is the worst it's ever been.
So what are you putting up with at Edmunds Automotive?
Mostly the drug addicts. We deal with a lot of homeless, but mostly drug addicts. We get a lot of people smoking meth in our doorways and across from our shop and behind our shop, and the urination and the feces and that kind of garbage.
So you were talking about as your crew is working on cars and clients are waiting in your office, that they're literally smoking fentanyl like right outside your door, basically.
That's correct.
And the fumes, which are very deadly, are basically wafting into your place of business.
That's correct. This particular day, I was on the phone with a customer. This particular individual was smoking, and my guy asked him to leave. So I back up, and I look, and I see my guy on the ground, and the dude's on top of him. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I run out. As I get about to the bay door, unfortunately, my guy has to warn the man that he is armed. And when the man sees the handle of his pistol, he gets off of him and leaves. I had one day where the same exact spot, it's right in front of the business next to me, where they actually set up 2 picnic tables and 8 lawn chairs, and they were selling drugs there all day.
People just flat out having sex right there on a bus bench or on the sidewalk on the roadway.
We have Wayne here. He owns Anything Wood on First and Prince. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
What do you do at Anything Wood?
We manufacture...
I know it's self-explanatory.
Well,
but...
a little bit. We manufacture high-end custom cabinets.
Okay. And you guys have been in business for how long?
25 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yep. We have to walk the property pretty much every day and pick up endless trash. We've had machetes pulled on us. We've had rocks thrown at us. We've been spit on. We've had people put curses on us. I mean, everything. Quite a few times of broken windows.
Wow.
And theft, catalytic converter theft. That cost me $2,000. All of our gates, all of our fences have been cut and broken into. Yeah, so it's constant.
Josh Jacobson, a concerned citizen that's part of this organization. Joshua, welcome back to the show.
The goal of the Tucson Crime-Free Coalition is to disrupt this way of living. People are either going to get better, they're going to go to jail, or they're simply going to say, you know what? I can't live this way in Tucson anymore. It's not fun. I'm going back to Portland. I'm going to Seattle. I'm out of here. Supervisor Grijalva, Supervisor Scott, and Supervisor Christie, who actually wrote an article about what we are doing. Supervisor Grijalva and Scott were recently in the media doing interviews, and we were very happy to see that they are starting to use the same language that we are. They're talking about crime. They're talking about addiction. They are still talking about the homeless issue, but that does go along with the addiction. So since we're using the same kind of language now, we feel like they're starting to see it.
TucsonCrimeFree.com. We may see Josh before this thing's all over again. Good morning to Kevon Daboski. Hopefully I said that right.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Kevon Daboski.
Yes, sir.
Dig Deep Gym.
Dig Deep Athletic Training Academy.
You're over on Speedway in Maine near Estevan Park.
We are a nonprofit gym for student athletes solely. We've been there since around George Floyd, so what's that, 2020 of COVID? With the city of Tucson, they bestowed upon us this gym so that we could operate and help these kids. We have a very good track record of kids that have went D1. Outside, you see a football field with stands. You see a basketball facility. You see a playground, right? But then the situation that we've been dealing with, homelessness, the war on drugs, it's all happening at that park. There's about 24 camps.
What kind of behavior are you observing within the camp?
There's hostility because you're walking in their area. There's drug usage. As soon as you come in there, you'll smell what's going on. There's feces everywhere. There was a stabbing there. There was a shooting and a killing there. There's certain situations when we call these cops there, it's like I feel like they're being told to kind of stand down a little bit. We were doing this thing called sandball, which is like volleyball with the medicine ball outside because we have sand, and someone got stabbed during our little competition event.
Oh, one of the kids?
No, sir. Someone.
One of the people.
A civilian was stabbed, and he was leaking coming to us while we were playing the game. And one of the parents was like, "Oh my God," screaming. We had to call the cops. Like, this was a real event.
Jim and Marta Buchanan Products.
We were in Phoenix for a convention. We came back, and our building had been broken into, and we didn't even try to catalog it, but thousands of dollars worth of equipment and metals were stolen. The doors were left open. Police never came out. We called and called and called.
Let's go up to Pine Top for a weekend.
Okay, we have a place there.
We went up just 2 months ago. Came back, and there was a homeless camp by our palm trees.
In our yard.
In our yard. I went over, yard. Asked them politely. There was a lady across the street with a machete, letting me know that the lady in our yard was not home.
It was her home,
yeah, she let me know that she wasn't home, and I said this wasn't her home. This was my property, and she informed me that it wasn't my property, that it was her property.
My Lord,
it's
But we called the police 9 times one day, 9 times, and the police never came.
Wow. I mean, you're under siege, basically, at your own business.
They always tell us the rights of the homeless. They have rights.
A concerned citizen resident over by Broadway and Country Club, her name is Tracy Toland. Basically, you're concerned that your kids can't even go to the mailbox anymore.
That's right. Yep. The front yard has become a danger zone.
What are you dealing with?
A few of them decided that they were going to go into the oleanders and put up a big green tarp that was very, very well concealed. So when you would walk through the neighborhood, you couldn't really see it. But the problem is I live there, so I was watching them, and I could hear them setting it up. They were actually chopping down branches on the inside to make room for their tarp that they were setting up. Yeah, so they were...
It's like bus crafting at its best from the homeless fentanyl people.
Yes. Yeah. They're creative. We started seeing a lot of unusual activity in our front yard happening. People would come and they would do like quick contacts. People would actually get dropped off in vehicles, and they would enter into the oleanders at that spot where they had set up camp. And one morning, I had a zombie, is what I like to call them.
We use it a lot around here.
They came out of the oleanders, and it was one man, and he went up to my daughter's and my son's window, and I was watching him. I could just see he was on drugs. He didn't know where he was, and so I immediately called 911, and they said that they would send somebody out, but it was 3 hours later.
Oh my Lord.
So we kind of just had to hide inside. He didn't stay long, but that feeling when the officers arrived was like, wow, 3 hours later, good thing that he didn't try to. When the officers arrived, they looked at where he was. They asked me, what was he doing? And I showed him where he was. And they saw a spigot underneath the window. And they said, oh, well, he was probably just trying to come get water, trying to put me at ease, which I immediately got upset about, because that's what I talked in my call to audience about, theft of services.
You enticed him.
Yeah. And that was the officer's response to me was, well, don't worry. He just wanted some water, and he's on his way. And it wasn't reassuring, needless to say.
No.
So the camp, it was getting bigger, and people were coming, and we would notice trash and, all the things that come with the homeless.
Broadway and Country Club would probably put you in the Kozaczyk ward.
Yes, Steve K.
What was his response to you?
Well, I have the response. I did reach out to their office, and they wrote me an email, and I'll just read a little piece of it.
Sure.
And he says, while your house facing the arroyo isn't ideal, they could state that it is an outdoor public space. An approach Council Member Kozaczyk has been asking Mayor and Council to support is for the city to establish several moderately sized, controlled, and monitored encampments.
Good morning to Veronica Henley. She with Dirty Dogs How are you doing, young lady?
I have a self-serve dog wash location, grooming, and then I have a boarding and daycare facility. The first one is Fort Lowell and Campbell, and the second one is Park and 22nd. 4 years ago, Tucson it was fine, and then a year into my business, it just started getting strange.
Right.
It was just not what it was before. 2 years ago, it got weirder, and then just keeps getting weird and weird. Park and 22nd, it's not dangerous, but I would say that it's starting to feel like I've kept it in check. The most recent time, there was a homeless guy. He kept to himself. He was at the corner for just camping out. I would say for a month or two, and we noticed him. And one morning he was yelling and having some sort of episode and waving, chasing after people with this long metal rod. And when I pulled up, because I pull up after my employees get there, they said, "Hey, this guy is in the back and he's chasing after our neighbors." And I'm like, "Man, I have dogs." He's yelling about the dogs or something. And I got out. And I'm not scared of homeless people. I'm not scared of any homeless person, mostly because I'm packing. I'm fortunate enough to be practicing every week and get that confidence. So I just got out of the car and I waved it at him. He did not care. I said, "Okay." And then he actually saw me load it, and then he walked in the other direction. I call the police. I get a text message for, "Sorry for the delay. We'll be right with you." And I call them and say, "Hey, I'm loading. This guy has a long metal rod." And they were at least dispatch was not concerned. When the police did eventually show up after 3 hours.
Oh, Lord.
And they said, "Well, we're just going to give him a warning." They seemed like their hands were tied. And it was very unfortunate because they usually don't act that way. The second time he did it, he started yelling. That was a week later, and I called the police. I said, "I'm loading again. He comes near us. This is not going to end well." And then they showed up, and they finally moved him.
Thank you for the Tucson Crime Free Coalition for making this happen.
Thank you, all of you, for having the courage to speak out. Because once you speak out,
the city does act like 3-year-olds sometimes. So